one thing I realized is that there is this perception of the Africans or the black man as either violent or I don't know, because you don't get treated like every other person.
You think so?
Yeah, because
This is really just about you telling me your story. I want to know where you're from,
yeah.
what it's like living in your country, where you are now, and what prompted you to make this journey to this new country.
Oh, okay. My name is Joachim Addo.
Yes?
I am from Ghana, born and bred in Ghana, and then somewhere along the line, around 2012, thereabout, I decided to be a sailor. So I started to travel a lot. I traveled a few places. I can say I have traveled more than 25 countries outside Africa. So I've quite traveled around, yeah. And I'm in Japan now. It's part of my life journey.
You think so?
Yeah, it's part of it. I don't intend to be here for long, but it's part of the studies I'm doing around the world to see how things go.
Okay.
As a Pan-Africanist, I'm very much concerned about how people think about us,
Yes.
what they say about us. I like, I'm kind of curious. I want to see what people think.
Okay, so when you say us, I want to ask you two things.
Yeah.
When you say us,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
I mean African people.
African people.
Yes.
And you
Black
you-
people.
Black people. So
Yeah.
you refer to yourself as a Pan-Africanist.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Pan-Africanist is basically somebody who believes in Africa, believes in the blackness, something like that. Pan-Africanists don't see Africa as they don't see it as a geographical location. We see it as a people. Anyone that believes in Africa, anybody that believes in Africa, and in this case, not just the geographical Africa, but the black community across the globe.
Okay.
So our well-being, so more or less like advocates for the black people.
You mentioned that is of interest to you.
Yeah.
Why is it so important what people think of your home country?
I don't know. I guess it's a genetic thing. Growing up, I see myself both in Africa and outside Africa. So, and I like to read a lot. I have, like I said, I travel a lot, so I kind of hear what people say about African people, I see what people do to Africans,
Yes.
and it's a concern to me. I hope I have so much powers to do something about it, but
What are some of the things that people say about Africa and African people that is of concern to you? What is it that bothers you? What hurts you?
For example, if people think of African people as aggressive people, as criminals, it hurts me so much because we are not. For example, if I had a friend who was talking to me about in Japan, a Japanese friend, he was telling me how violent African Americans are and how much how they are criminals, that kind of thing.
African Americans?
Yes.
That's interesting.
And then I told him that he has no right whatsoever to judge, Like, for example, the African American people, you cannot talk about them if you don't find yourself in their shoes, They are in a system that has been designed against them. So, and you know what kind of media we have in this world? The CNN, BBC, in fact, the Western media always want to create an impression that black people or African people are, bad, maybe.
Yes.
And yes, sometimes, like me, I am in Africa, and then some of the things I hear about Africa, where I live in, it bothers me because why do you have to make so much, paint a bleak picture of some people,
Yes.
It kind of bothers me, I don't know. So if I am in Africa, knowing much about Africa, and then hearing something else, different from what I see, like the reality. I, at the same time, know that most of the things I hear about African Americans is definitely not true.
Okay.
You know, Africa has gone through difficult times before.
Yes.
We have gone through wars, civil wars, coups, slavery, and then all of these things are part of the bigger package, like colonization is the bigger package, you know, and slavery and all these things are components of it. You know, the oppression that the African people faced and all that, you know, the difficult times I mentioned earlier on, the wars, you know, after the slavery, we lost trust for one another because sometimes some of us were used to invade our friends and then capture them into slavery. So that trust was no longer there. So that is how come we fought each other a lot in the past. But like of late, people are beginning to realize that no, we have a common enemy somewhere. Fighting each other is not the way to go, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so we kind of realizing Africa today and Africa 10 years ago is not the same.
How is it not the same? What is so different?
Definitely different. Like 10 years ago, it is there's a lot of like wars, civil wars, a lot of poverty. Now it is much improved, okay? Because there are instances you get asked about Africa. Hey, do you have rice in Africa? You hear stuff like that.
Rice?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
You hear, I have been asked like that before. In China, somebody asked me, do you have rice in Africa? I looked at him and I said, no, we don't have rice. You know, I don't know, maybe that is the best way to answer such a question because what are you talking about? You know, you cannot compare Chinese land or lands anywhere to the land in Africa. We have everything that we need. We do not need fertilizers, for example, to produce food. Everything, we depend on nature. We don't do this irrigation stuff. We think that we Africans believe that we are blessed, we are special.
Yeah.
Because everything we need in this world is with us.
Okay.
We do not need to depend on anybody for anything.
Okay.
Everything that we need is within the continent.
Okay. And question, Joachim, you attended schools in Africa, right?
Definitely.
What are some of the stories that you are taught? Do they teach you about like African kings and queens and like persons who were influential in the past in your country, like that went way beyond slavery?
Yes.
What,
You know,
tell me one such person.
Before slavery, you know, we were on our own. We are just African people.
Yeah.
There was no foreigner, there was no foreign culture. So the way we go is we live in communities, and these communities have kings. And a number of communities come together, and then we have more or less like, smaller communities have chiefs, and a number of these communities come together, then we have a king who oversees a number of communities, okay? So when somebody misbehaves, that person is taken to the court in the king's palace, and then there is a judgment. So if, for example, you commit a very big crime, like say murder or something that big, a king can order that you should be killed. We had such a system.
So you had your own government?
Yes, we had such a government, and then colonization came to tell us it was the West way of governing each other, you know. We needed democracy.
Okay, so now you're in Japan.
Yep.
You're traveling in Japan. Are there any difficulties that you face living here as a black man from Africa?
Yep.
Tell me about that.
A lot. You know, the one thing I realized is that there is this perception of the Africans or the black man as either violent or I don't know, because you don't get treated like every other person.
You think so?
Yeah, because for example, when you are walking in the night, this has happened to me several times. Walking on the street in the night, and then maybe on that particular stretch there are not many people, just you and then maybe 1 or 2 young girls are coming. They see you and then they run away. They walk away. Then when you pass, they come back into the street and continue walking.
Okay.
No, I don't know if it is fear or. So I had an opportunity to talk to one of these Japanese girls, and then she was telling me, yes. She asked me first and foremost, you know, you guys are scary. Scary like how? Is it physical appearance? No. You guys are gangsters, you are criminals, you know, that kind of thing. So, yep, I asked her further, what crimes have you experienced done to you by African people? Then she said, no, her teacher taught her so. So
her teacher taught
her so. So
okay.
I asked about who her teacher was. She said the teacher was from UK. So the hate that the white man has for the African, they are trying to, in my opinion, they are trying to transfer that hate across, even into Japanese, into Asians. Maybe their hate is not big enough. It's not intimidating us enough. They want more hates for us. That's what I think.
Okay.
If not, I don't see any point leaving UK to Japan to tell Japanese that black people are bad people. I don't get it.
It doesn't add up, right?
It doesn't add up.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your hope for Africa? Like, do you plan to return home? And if and when you do return home, what are some of the hopes that you have for your country?
I most definitely want to return home.
Yes.
And then the hope that I have is to see Africa as one country rather than a continent. One country, one government, one army, one currency. I know this is in progress. The people are working on this tirelessly, and to make Africa a better place for all Africans, both home and those in the diaspora. Because definitely Japan, I don't intend to stay here for long. Just a few more months or years, you never know. And then I'll be back home.
You'll be back.
And then I'm going to join that struggle to make Africa a better place to be.
A better place. And that's a great note to end on. I want to thank you so much, Joachim, for talking with me today in the streets of Shin-Okubo.
Yep.
All right, so you can't come on the vlog and you don't tell us how to say something in your Ghanaian language. You know, that's a part of it. Like, we need some language lesson.
Yeah.
So what are you going to teach us today?
I'm going to say, I'm going to teach you Pidgin English.
Pidgin English, okay.
Yeah, this is like common among English-speaking African countries. So, for example, if you want to say, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can say, waiting they happen.
What? One more time?
Waiting they happen.
Waiting they happen.
Yeah.
Waiting they happen.
What's happening?
What's going on? Waiting they happen.
Yeah.
That sounds similar to Jamaican patois. We say wagwan.
Yeah.
Wagwan. What here they happen? Okay, cool.
Like that, yeah. I really like patois. When I hear patois, like I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds great in my ears, and I hope I can speak it one day.
You can try today. It's a wagwan.
Wagwan.
It's a Jamaica wagwan.
Jamaica wagwan.
All right.
Love, man.
Yeah, man. Big up yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then somebody who, when they come home to meet your family, they'll be able to relate to your family. My family is a Pan-African family.